Hi everyone. So I know this isn't my usual content, but I'm having a Charlie Day moment with a side interest of mine, and I'm gonna subject the world to it right now. So, if you are into girl world slash Amberverse, you know that a lot of very insane stuff has been going on right now, and the thing about it is that it centers around Amberlynn and her ex girlfriend Emily, and they both seem terrible. And there's been a lot of back and forth and a lot of text message screenshots shown. A lot of people have done great videos on it. Thinking particularly of Rachel, Mr. Snowflake, etc. But I think what everyone really cares about, or at least most of the people I can think of really care about, is Rarity, right? So a lot of this kind of centers around a fight that Emily and Amber had that led up to Amber's cat Rarity being lost somehow. Rarity is gone. We don't really know what has happened to her, or we don't know the truth of the circumstances. But I thought that, since like the real victim here is this cat, not these two horrible people who seem to be being horrible to each other. So I wanted to go through Amber's different versions of how Rarity got out, or sort of the circumstances around it. And, I know that in one of her most recent videos, Rachel was like, oh, like, Amber recently, like, just the other day, I think on the 10th of October, came out with, like, a third version. So she's told a couple of versions. So she told a first version where she left the door open, the cat got out. The second version was Emily left the door open, the cat got out. And the third version is a variation on Emily leaving the door and the cat got out, but the timing is different, right? So I decided to go through the videos where she talks about the day that she lost Rarity and try to just break it down into the most simple narrative for each one. And in my reckoning, basically, there's sort of three main versions, but sort of the second version kind of has a couple of variations, actually. So it's almost like there are four versions. I don't know. We'll see. But so I made a chart to show the way that I break these down. And so I think what I'm going to do is I'll show you all the chart. I'll walk through the chart. And then if you're like a real psycho like me, I can like walk you through my actual spreadsheet notes that have actual quotes from Amber in them and have some context and details, and just I can have a little moment to, rant about my extra thoughts about it. So you can see the chart and you can be satisfied with that, or you could stay for me to, natter on, because I don't know. I don't think I've made a video under 20 minutes anyway. So, okay. So let's see the chart. All right. Here is the chart that I've made. And, so that breaks down the timing really roughly. And like I said, there's a lot more detail in my actual spreadsheet notes, but, I tried to break it down and simplify everything as much as possible. This stuff is all in my own words rather than Amber's quotes, just for brevity's sake. But I think you can compare them to when I show you the spreadsheet and tell me if you think that's accurate. But basically, I've combined the first two videos where Amber talks about Rarity getting out. So those are her vlogs called My Heart is Broken and The Truth. And the second one has the most content in it, and it was filmed on November 23rd. I think that My Heart is Broken was filmed on November 18th, 2024. All right. So in these, this is the very simple account. At 5 a.m., Amber says that she let the dogs out. She brought them back in, and I guess when she brought them back in, she left the door open because she says pretty definitively that Rarity getting out happened after the dogs had already come back in. And then Amber says that 20 minutes later, she sits down, presumably in the kitchen. She feels the cold breeze, notices the open door, and realizes that Rarity is gone. And that's the point at which she just says, like, that's when I knew. So that's her first account. Pretty simple, right? She was letting the dogs out. Somewhere in that process, she left the door open, Rarity got out. She noticed right away. Almost right away, basically. Second version. So second version happens basically after Emily goes to Mr. Snowflake with her texts about, basically, Snowflake does a little interview of Emily about her and Amber's relationship, and then Emily also gives him texts from the day when, from like sort of the latter part of the day when Rarity went missing. Amber, before this video comes out, Mr. Snowflake makes a community post about it. Amber jumps the gun and basically like rushes out to kind of put her narrative out before we can hear Emily's. So in this version, at 5 a.m., Amber says she and Emily got in a fight. Emily leaves through the glass door and leaves it open. Amber doesn't notice that the door is open because she doesn't go near it. And then basically she says later that she was waiting at the kitchen table for Emily to get home. So just from context, we know that Emily basically says later that Amber texted her about Rarity about 2 hours after her shift at work ended. Amber texted Emily at 10 p.m., therefore 8 p.m. was when her shift ended. So somewhere in the evening, probably a bit before 8 p.m. is when I'm thinking that this would take place within this narrative, because Amber is waiting at the kitchen table for Emily to get home. She's waiting there, she feels the cold breeze, and then realizes that Rarity is gone. Okay, so basically the door is open from basically 5 a.m. to almost 8 p.m. in the evening without her noticing it. Before then, it is November in Wisconsin. I mean, probably the warmest it's going to get is 65 degrees. So anyway, there you go. What I'm calling version 2B is for, so that particular live was on August 2nd, 2024. And then, reacting to my ex-girlfriend. Oh, I put the date in wrong here. Sorry about that. But it's August 3rd. So it's the very next day. She reacts to the Mr. Snowflake video with Emily that has just come out. The timeline she gives in this one is that she and Emily get in a fight. Sometime presumably in the evening. Okay, basically she says that all the cats in the household, and there are like 4 of them, stay in the basement all day, and she never sees them during the day, but later in the day, they usually start to come out of the basement and hang out upstairs or wherever they happen to be, I guess. Anyway, so this is presumably sometime in the evening. It's just later in the day. I'm putting in the evening, but, whatever. Like, probably significantly later in the day. It's basically the time when Amber says that she usually sees the cats come up from the basement. She doesn't see Rarity, and she starts looking for her. And she says she, looks all over the house. She looks at all the floors. She takes a bag of treats around and shakes it. She's looking for Rarity everywhere. Then she messages Emily about Rarity. I'm putting that at 10 p.m. because that's when we know that text was sent. All right. So these are different, right? I almost feel like there should be a second version and a third version instead of 2 and 2B, but I'm not entirely sure. But basically, in one of them, Amber doesn't notice anything until she's at the kitchen table and feels the door open. In the other version, it's actually Amber not seeing Rarity come up from the basement with the other cats that tips her off that Rarity is gone, and she starts searching for her. I can see how these two could fit together, right? Like, is that she could say, oh, well, I didn't see her. I started looking for her. I sat down at the kitchen table. I felt the cold breeze, and then I knew that she must be gone, right? So those two could, they could fit together like that. But these details are both in completely separate lives. And she doesn't, they don't have that much, they actually don't have that much crossover in terms of detail and the way that she tells the narrative. So they could fit together logically, but she doesn't really tell it that way. She tells it in two pretty, somewhat substantially different ways in each one of these, even though they're one right after the other. But they could plausibly both happen in the same timeline, so there you go. The third version was the one that was from just the other day, October 10th. This is a refinement, I guess another refinement of the second version, but it radically changes the timeline, right? Because it actually brings the timeline back to the first version in some ways. Because in the first version, Amber realizes that Rarity's gone like in the morning relatively quickly after the door is left open. In the second versions, Amber does not realize that Rarity is gone until quite a bit later in the day. In the third version, basically she says she and Emily got in a fight around 5 a.m. Emily leaves the house for 20 minutes and leaves the back door open. Emily comes back inside and presumably closes the door, gets dressed, whatever, leaves for work, also presumably closes the door. That's the point at which Amber notices she can't find Rarity, is like presumably right after Emily leaves for work. So really, like, the timelines are all vastly different. So Amber is trying to act like this third version aligns with her second version, but actually the timeline is vastly different, right? Because in her third version, everything is happening early in the morning. By early in the morning, she knows that she can't find Rarity, right? But in the second version, it doesn't happen until much later in the day. And so this is like, there's so many multiple versions now. Anyway, and then also she notices early in the morning that she can't find Rarity, and yet, like, we know that she didn't text Emily about it until 10 p.m. So, anyway, that is like a simple breakdown of the timelines from the different videos. I think the one commentary here is that that I will go over a little bit, but like, the timing is confused by some things that Amber says about it being the next day. Amber's recently said in a live that by the next day, she just means when she woke up, because she went to sleep at 6 a.m. and woke up at 3 p.m. So, quote unquote, to her, it was the next day or something. So I am just going to kind of take her at her word there, and I'm placing everything on the same day. All right. That's the version I made for that chart. That's a simplified version. In a second, I will just walk you through the more detailed notes I've taken on each one of these videos. They're not super detailed, but they're like enough more detailed that if you actually want to see exactly what Amber says and the quotes that I pulled that I think are directly relevant, you can look at those. Okay, so this is the spreadsheet where I just cataloged what I got out of the videos I looked at. I will say, just as a caveat, I think it's probably not exhaustive. There are probably some other tidbits that are in these videos. I was word searching the transcripts mostly to find what I wanted to find. So obviously we know Amberlynn's troubles with pronouncing things correctly, phrasing things in a normal way. And so due to that, due to transcription issues, due to my own just oversight, there are things that I may have missed. But this is what I got out of each one of those videos of hers about this in particular. So the first vlog is called My Heart is Broken. It's on November the 18th. I put the date of the events she's talking about as the 16th, which I think is probably incorrect. It's probably the 17th. But basically she said it happened 2 nights ago when she opens the video. I think she probably just made a mistake. I don't know why she said that. I mean, there could be nefarious reasons or whatever. But anyway, basically in this one, she just says, I left the glass door open. When I noticed it was 20 minutes later, you know, Rarity got out. So there's a vlog from a later date from November 23rd, 2024, talking about what we assume is the 17th, what she says is the 17th, but, you know, because of the previous one. Anyway, she says Rarity went missing very early in the morning on the 17th. I did include a little interesting context because basically in this video where she's saying that Rarity went missing very early in the morning, she's talking about, oh, she followed me everywhere, no matter what room I was in, no matter what I was doing, she was there, right? So this is interesting in context for the later videos where she says, oh, I didn't see her all day because she was in the basement with the other cats. She's literally saying in a video here where she's talking about Rarity's disappearance that Rarity was always around. So she says it was the 17th at 5 a.m. Usually I take the dogs out. We know that Emily said in the video with Mr. Snowflake that Amber did not regularly let the dogs out after sort of the first few days she'd been there. At this point, she'd been there at least over a month. So she said, I thought I closed the door. She shows us how far she left it open. I think, you know, just like, and it wasn't like wide open. It was probably like a few inches. And then she said it happened after the dogs came back inside. So I guess presumably she's trying to say she let the dogs out at 5 or 6 a.m. She brought them back inside, like she let them back inside. After that, she said, I was just doing things around the house. It was like 20 minutes later. I sat down in the chair and I felt a super cold breeze. And I was like, that's weird. And that's when I put 2 and 2 together. Right. So that's like basically after the dogs came in, she didn't close the door all the way is what she's trying to say. And apparently there's the back door is like a glass sliding door. It has curtains about it, and she says the curtains were closed, like, when she noticed. So I guess she's trying to tell us, like, well, visually I didn't see that it was left open because the curtains were obscuring it. Anyway, she said, I peeked around the corner, and I was like, you've got to be kidding me, and that's when I knew. So basically, as soon as she saw and noticed that the door was open, she knew that Rarity was gone. Now, I think some people thought about this and are like, oh, did she just like spiritually know? Did she like get a message? You know, did she get an inspiration? Were the aliens telling her that Rarity's gone? Hey, if you're interested in alien stuff, watch my other videos. But she said that she just knew, and I think it's actually maybe going back to, well, she says Rarity followed her everywhere. Rarity did everything with her. So maybe when she looked at the door, she just knew because like Rarity hadn't been around her in that 20 minutes and Rarity was always next to her. I mean, it's just a thought. But anyway, so that's the second video that took place sort of semi-contemporaneously in 2024. Then we have the live. We have been in a relationship the whole time. This is sort of Amber's live that was trying to preempt this Mr. Snowflake video. This was done in August 2nd of 2025. She like calls this Rarity night. I don't know when she's describing when this is, but basically she says, you know, we get in a big fight. It was 5 or 6 a.m. Emily ended up leaving through the kitchen door, which is a sliding glass door. Something interesting that I thought Rachel pointed out is that basically Amber says she likes to say that I was. And then she kind of cuts herself off and says, you guys see me? I'm over 500 pounds. I walk really slow. I'm a slow mover. I mean, presumably, like, Rachel points this out that, like, you know, that Amber has confessed that she tends to follow partners around when they are arguing. She tends to, like, follow close behind them or block them from places. And that, you know, basically that Amber is saying this to kind of preempt the argument that she chased after Emily, that she was following her around in the way that she has said that she did often. when they had an argument. And so basically she's saying this because she wants to say, oh, well, that's why I didn't know that the door was open, because I'm a slow mover. But that also doesn't make sense, right? Because even if Emily's like bolting out the back door, Amber may move slow, but she can obviously move around the house. She says she does all these things in the house. So, like, even if Emily had bolted out the door already, she was gone. Like, I still think you would probably walk to the door to see, like, where she went or something, you know. I think in her video, Rachel thinks, like, oh, Amber may have been blocking the front door, and that is why Emily took the back door. I don't know. I mean, I think it does make sense with some of the things that we know about Amber, but also just in general, I think that she maybe, like, the only circumstances under which it would make sense that she just, like, did not notice the door was open for hours and hours is that she stayed upstairs and she just didn't go downstairs at all. Because if you go downstairs, the door is open, it's winter, it's 5 a.m. So in Wisconsin, I would assume it's like freezing temperatures outside in Wisconsin in November at 5 a.m. So if you were downstairs, you would notice that it was cold and you would notice the door was open. You know, so can we see Amber, like, them having a fight and Amber just, like, not following Emily at all, staying in the room, just be like, go? Yeah, it doesn't seem likely with what we know about her, but, you know, who knows? But anyway, it does seem like she's trying to preempt the argument that she chased after Emily, but I think that it doesn't matter, right? She could move very slow. That doesn't mean that she's not eventually going to get there and see the door being open. But anyway, so she said she leaves through the glass door, she leaves it open, and she says, I did not notice because I did not go near the door. I don't know the configuration of Emily's house. I'm sure some people have, like, done some horrible doxing and tried to, you know, decide what her house makeup looks like. I know that in, like, videos I think that Rachel has done, she's said that Emily's told her that, like, the front and the back door are facing each other. Also, in other places, Amber is saying, when I was in the kitchen, I felt the cold breeze from the door. So, like, the kitchen must be close to the door. And, I mean, did Amber just not go in the kitchen, like, all day? I mean, Emily is gone all day, right? So she just didn't go in the kitchen all day? Because if she was in the kitchen, she would have noticed, because that's where she says she noticed. But anyway, because she said, you know, I was sitting at the kitchen table and that's when I noticed the cold breeze. So unless you believe that she just spent the whole day, like, maybe upstairs, did not come down into the kitchen at all, even if you know, think about her supposed schedule where maybe she's going to sleep at 6 a.m. and waking up at 3 p.m., Emily is still not due to finish her shift until 8 p.m. That's 5 hours. So even if she wakes up at 3 p.m., is she... I mean, I guess she could stay in bed for another 5 hours after that, just scrolling on her phone. I mean, now that I think about it, maybe that's kind of likely. But anyway, I don't know. It doesn't seem super likely to me. But anyway. And then the weird thing she says next is that it was the next day when I was like, something really just does not seem right. I haven't seen Rarity all day. There is a live that's later on. It's not this one. It's one of the most recent ones. Sometime, you know, she did a 6 hour long set of lives recently. I think it might be somewhere in there, but there's somewhere where she's basically says, it was the next day to me because I fell asleep at 6 a.m. and woke up at 3 p.m. basically, or, you know, some time frame around that. And so, like, when I wake up, to me, it's the next day. And I think that I'm just going to take this as, that's fine. I mean, that's dumb. It's not the next day. Like, on the calendar, it's not the next day. I don't think most people would consider it the next day. I know that if I happen to take a nap in the middle of the day, I don't wake up and say, it's the next day. But Amber is weird, and if she thinks about it that way, then whatever. That's fine. I think I mean, we know that she sent a text on the 17th at 10 p.m. to Emily saying that Rarity was missing. So clearly, that aligns there. Anyway. So then basically there's another video on August the 3rd, right after that, where she kind of, I think this is what I call like the timeline 2B, basically version 2B. So she says, our huge argument happened in the morning. It was 4 a.m., something like that. This is where she kind of gives the context. Oh, the cats spend most of the time in the basement. I wouldn't really see Rarity throughout the day. It would be later at night that she would pop out and follow me around. And it sounds like she's really trying to massage this of like, okay, how could I not have known about it until later? Like I said yesterday. But also have said many, many times in the past, and Beck has also said things like this, that like Rarity loves people. She wants to be around Amber. She follows her around. She's always in the same room as her. So it feels like she's trying to like massage these two things together. That basically like, oh, well, like I wouldn't see her during the day, but when she did come up, she would follow me around. But anyway, so she said it was around the time where the cats start to come out. They're coming up to the living room or the bedroom. And I was like, it's weird. I've seen most of the cats today, but I haven't seen Rarity. And so, like I said, I think that I would presume this is sometime in the late afternoon to evening. Especially considering that, like, maybe Amber woke up around 3 p.m., something like that. So then she said that, okay, I haven't seen Rarity. So she said, I went down to the basement and I didn't see her also. And so she was calling her name. She went to all the different floors. I didn't put this in here, but she also said, like, I had a bag of treats that I was shaking it and she wasn't coming to me. I was calling her name. Anyway. But, so she describes this search, but we also know from the texts that she said to Emily, like, I've been looking for her and I didn't check the back porch. And actually, let's see. I do have Emily's it's in this other spreadsheet, but basically Emily's texts are, I haven't been able to find Rarity all day. I need help finding her, please. I've been calling her name and looking for her everywhere all day. I didn't go to the back porch. So, basically she says she did all this searching, right? She's saying in this live, okay, I went to the basement. I went to all the different floors. I searched for her. I called her name. I tried to tempt her out with treats. I didn't see her. But in a text to Emily, she says she didn't check the back porch. So, I mean, the back porch is right there. And then she said that's when I messaged Emily. And we know that was 10 p.m., right? So, and in this one, I don't know, like, I wasn't going to rewatch the whole video again. I know that that's a very slipshod of me, but I looked through the transcript and I searched it and I couldn't find her saying anything but the cold breeze. So, like, this version is missing the cold breeze, which I just feel like is such an essential part of the story in other places, even in the other two versions. But here, it's like, she was like, I'm looking for Rarity, and then I couldn't find her, and then I messaged Emily. Anyway, and she doesn't really, I searched for the word door also, and she doesn't actually say anything about the door, I think, in this one. Anyway, this is what I got. Okay, and then this most recent live on October 10th, she basically, this is her short version. These are quotes from her. I just didn't put them in quotations because I was being lazy. Basically, she said, we got in a huge fight in the middle of the night. Emily left in the middle of the night for 20 minutes, and she left the door open. She came home for 40 minutes and then left again to go to work, presumably around 6 a.m., if you add that all together. And that's when I noticed I couldn't find Rarity. So basically now she's saying it, again, is in the morning that I couldn't find Rarity. I assume that she thinks, I mean, okay, we know Amber, she doesn't think through her lies very well. But I assume that she thinks that somehow this version fixes the problem of, like, it continues to blame Emily while fixing some of the other problems of, like, well, how did you not notice until late, and, like, all these other questions. But anyway. Okay. All right. That's what I got. I hope someone finds it interesting or helpful. I had to get it off of my chest. And if I'm going to make a spreadsheet like this, I, don't necessarily want to just make it all for myself. So, yeah, that's that. Thanks, y'all.